Evening, and thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight. I am Pamela Dampier, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction for the School District of Indian River County. I would like to take a few moments to recognize just a few of the achievements of our new superintendent, Dr. David Moore. Prior to accepting his superintendency in Indian River County, Dr. Moore served as the Assistant Superintendent in Miami-Dade County Public Schools, the fourth largest school district in the nation. Since January 2014, Dr. Moore has led the Division of Academic Support, which encompasses the Education Transformation Office, Student Services, and the Office of School Improvement. Dr. Moore has been instrumental in redesigning each area under his supervision and has significantly contributed to Miami-Dade County Public Schools becoming one of the nation's highest performing urban school districts. Dr. Moore was recently inducted into the Miami College Alumni Hall of Fame for his work in education, supporting underrepresented students and ensuring post-secondary success. In addition, Dr. Moore was recently called back to Miami to be recognized for developing transformative educational initiatives that have positively impacted the lives of students and helped Miami-Dade County Public Schools reach new heights. We are truly blessed to be under the leadership of Dr. Moore, who is ready to make a transformational impact on education in Indian River County and ensure the success of all students. Without further delay, I would like to introduce to you our superintendent, Dr. David K. Moore, and Project Re-Envision 2025.
All right. Ooh, good job. I was looking for the, okay. Well, thank you, Pam, for that lengthy and wonderful introduction. So last week we did this, and we had some big issues with the clicker. I was literally walking around trying to make the clicker work. So the fact that it works is a great sign that we're going to have a great evening. I will be to the point. I will be open. I will be honest. This is an opportunity really to begin a discussion regarding the need for change. It's not me coming in and saying anything other than let's be open, let's be honest. Let's take a time to look at the outcomes as a community that we have produced. And when I say outcomes, it's really not just a number on a piece of paper. It's the impact that we are having on the life of the children in this district. I have made some very big commitments as I move through this interview process in working to become the superintendent of Indian River County. During the process, I told the board who was looking for transformational change that I believed every single school in this district should be an A. And that is a statement at the time that I fully believed. In speaking with some of my mentors who watched that video later, because everything is live streamed, I was told, you think you overpromised? Every school in the district's going to be an A? So I was wondering, well, did I overpromise? Did I say too much? Did I make a commitment to the board that can't be a reality? I made that prediction. I made that assumption based on numbers. I made that prediction. I made that assumption based on the work that I've done in Miami-Dade. So I was a little bit nervous because this is an individual who is a nationally recognized superintendent for really leading the fourth largest district in the nation. But as I've had the opportunity to connect to the individuals who do this work, to get to know the individuals in schools, to see principals in action, to see teachers doing the good work that they do each and every single day, I continue to be reassured that that is not an aspirational goal. It's not something that can't be done. I'm 100% confident that we should have nothing but A schools in this district. It is a reality that can be claimed. It can be a truth that is Indian River County Public Schools. So I'm here to talk about the path that takes us from our current reality to where we want to be, where everything is an A district or everything is an A school. Change begins with an understanding that we need to be doing things different. We need to evaluate our current reality, and in some cases have a sense of uncomfort or on a willingness not to be satisfied with that reality. If we were comfortable with where we were as a system, if you were comfortable with where you were as a person, there really is no desire to change or to transform. This is a transformation that isn't just about David Moore. It's not about this school board. It's about us wanting to be best by kids. And if we are to really begin the work to ensure that each and every single child walks into our schools and feels safe and feel comfortable and is provided with meaningful and rich instruction on a daily basis, we have to understand where we currently are and come to an understanding of collective understanding. Are we satisfied with where we are? Are we, as a system, currently best by all kids every day, regardless of where those kids come from, regardless of the school that they go to? What is it that we can do as a system to be best by kids on a daily basis? So the structure of this presentation really is to walk through where we are as a district, the reality as a district, and then have a conversation about A, are we satisfied, and B, what are the systematic process that we can implement collectively as a community really to begin this transformation. So I preface the statements that I'm going to make by saying that I'm not here to blame, I'm not here to trash, I'm not here to say anything that's negative. I want everyone truly to understand when you look at us as a district in comparison to other districts across the state, both small and large, this is the academic outcomes. These are the performance indicators in which we measure up. So as I go through these slides, you'll see me comparing us to small districts, like districts the same, similar size, our neighbors on each side of us, as well as Miami-Dade County Public Schools. I use Miami-Dade County Public Schools because it's where I spent the last 24 and a half years of my professional career, my entire life really. But as an educator, I know that work very, very, very well. So it allows me to make quick points of reference regarding the reality in which I lived for 24 years as a professional to my new reality in my new home. So as we begin this evaluation, we always start with some of the great things that are happening. And you can see Osceola Magnet School, 5 consecutive years, Beachland, Liberty Magnet School, Osceola, 5 schools, consecutive years of being an A. Commendable for our ESC school. That is the highest rating issued by the state, so it is a point of privilege. Was at our technical college just today with their principal and their staff, 97% pass rate, first-time pass rate on the LPN licensure exam. Top 60 nursing schools in the state of Florida. That is something to celebrate. When you look at the work that we've done around graduation rates for our black population, you've seen an improvement over the last 5 years from 65 percentage points to 81 percentage point. That is growth. Are we satisfied with that? Are we happy with that? Can we do better? Absolutely. Will we do better? Absolutely. But we want to acknowledge the growth that we've made over the last 5 years. Graduation rates for students with disabilities, also some significant improvement. 58% 5 years ago to 78% this past school year. Look at PBS model, which is a state model, Florida PBIS, which is a system of positive behavior support, empowering students with the appropriate behaviors in order to ensure that they're finding success in the school and in the classroom. We have 3 schools that are under gold status, and we have 8 schools under silver status. That is a very complex and rigorous process in order to receive those ratings. So that is absolutely wonderful. This is something we all should be very, very proud of. Our 2019 principal, teacher, and school-related employees were all named state finalists. I don't know if that's ever been done anywhere else in the state of Florida. It is a very, very competitive competition or acknowledgement at all levels, and to have a finalist within each of those categories is something truly, truly commendable regarding the quality of faculty and staff in this district. And then also very unique is that the Vero Beach Senior High School Fighting Indians state record for most consecutive regular season wins. So that is something I find very, very exciting, and we all should be proud of. When you look at our current vision and mission, this is how it currently stands. Vision, educate, and inspire every student to be successful. Mission, to serve all students with excellence. So in order to ground ourselves in this conversation and to ensure as an organization we have a clear understanding as to what excellence looks like across the organization. And is it being defined the same across each of the schools in order to ensure we're driving a conversation around a clear understanding as to what excellence is? What does success for every student look like? What does excellence look like for every student in every organization? So let's begin the conversation regarding, is there even a need to reevaluate the structures and systems, the organizational design for the school district of Indian River County? Well, as I said, my comparisons will be between where I have spent my professional career and where I will end my professional career. So you can look at the variances between Indian River County and Miami-Dade County Public Schools. There are a lot more students in Miami. There are a lot more schools in Miami. When you look at the demographics, you can see there is variances across the board. Significant variances in some areas. When you look at Hispanic, Black is very close in terms of the percentage of students. White, 54% in Indian River, only 7% in Miami. English language learners, a 15% variance. So you can see the difference is significant. One thing that hopefully jumps out at you when you look at this slide is students with disability. The state average is aligned to Miami-Dade County Public Schools at 11%. Actually, I think they're 10% the last time that I looked. Students with disability in Indian River is 16%. That is an opportunity for us really to evaluate our multi-tier systems of support, how we're going through RTI, and ensuring that we're using those systems and those interventions with fidelity and not rushing to an assessment and labeling of a student, because that number is statistically high in comparison to the state. So do we have core interventions in place to empower students with the skills and the ability so they can find success in a traditional classroom without being labeled? And that research and that number tells me that we have work to do in terms of RTI and multi-tier systems of support. This is a comparison of like schools. So I want to look at what I'm used to and what the reality would be. So I look for very similar schools in terms of demographics. So you look at these two schools. They are real schools. Just remove the name so we weren't having conversations. Oh my gosh, that's my school that's up there. 623 school students in the school in Indian River, 628 in Miami, economically disadvantaged. Not that far apart in terms of number. Administrators, 100% aligned. Instructional staff, 39 versus 43. So actually, more students or more teachers in the instructional staff, and the numbers, as I said, are about the same. When you look at instructional support, there's a wide variance in terms of staff, and you look at non-instructional support, there's a wide variance in terms of staff. When you look at the outcomes of the two different schools, one is a C, one is an A. So I show that slide as well as the next slide to say we really need to be accountable for how we use and maximize human capital. It is the largest percent of where we spend our money on our budget is the investment in the adults who make up the school system. We need to ensure they have the resources, the support, the investment in them in order to produce a positive outcome. Once again, here's a high school example, two similar high schools in terms of number. The Indian River School is a C, Miami-Dade County Public School is an A. Look at the instructional staff, 100 compared to 74. So there's things that are significantly different. But I put these slides up here to say, when we begin to have conversations around school-based allocations and maximizing the resources we have by being strategic and using data to drive student placement and using data to design and develop master schedules, that it can be done with less. And it can be done better, and the outcome can be more effective. Now let's look at the distribution of school grades. So for a point of comparison, to familiarize yourself with the data set that's in front of you, you can see green is the percent of A schools, yellow is the B, and C's are the orange color. That is Indian River. Charlotte, which is a similar district in size. Martin County, which is our neighbor. Brevard, which is our other neighbor. And then Miami-Dade. So what jumps out to me is the percent of schools that currently sit at a C in comparison to these other districts that are here on this slide. When you look at it from a different perspective in terms of over time and the rate growth of percent of schools that are A or a B, on this particular side you see that Indian River County and Miami-Dade County Public Schools began this journey 5 years ago, very similar in terms of the percent of A's and B's. Then you look 5 years forward, you see that Indian River is actually 1 percentage point lower than they were 5 years ago in terms of the percent of A and B. And you look at Miami-Dade's significant growth, you see the inconsistency of all the other districts, which means they have not built sustainable practices, that they're always running and supporting their C and D schools and leaving the A's and B's. So it becomes this wherever we are providing support, additional support, we see increases, and those schools that once were up then ultimately drop. This yo-yo effect because we haven't invested and built sustainable practices. This is the opposite way of looking at really the same data set in terms of, once again, starting in a similar point with Miami-Dade, looking at grade schools that are a C through an F. You see significant reduction from Miami-Dade. Once again, that same yo-yo effect from the other counties, and a stagnant set of data over the course of 5 years for Indian River. This is a slide that looks at the rate of progress for FSA grades 3 through 10. Students scoring at level 3. The journey, once again, begins in a very, very similar place for Miami and Indian River, but what you see over the course of 5 years is a 6 percentage point increase in proficiency for all schools in the district over 5 years for Miami, and only a 1 percentage point increase. And it is still the lowest percent of proficient in comparison to our neighbors. This slide looks at information a little bit differently. This looks at our rate of proficiency when students are in 3rd grade. Now, we have seen a significant improvement in 3rd grade proficiency over the last 4 or 5 years. That data isn't displayed, but it has hit an all-time high for us of 60 this past school year. And you see the information right at that 60 mark. Fast forward to when you are in 10th grade, the proficiency drops when you look at the percent proficient in 3rd grade compared to the percent proficient in 10th grade by 9 percentage points. And you can see the data sets for our neighbors in other counties. Martin, you're actually growing students who are scoring at level 3. Brevard, a slight decline. Miami, a 7% decline. So you see the goal here is when we have proficient students, we need to grow those proficient students to a level 4, a level 5, higher levels of thinking, more complex thinking, solving complex problems. We don't want to see that number going down. We actually want to see it going up. The more time they spend with us, the higher the levels of proficiency should be. This is a slide that looks at black students with disabilities suspended, expelled for 10 days or more. And the easiest way to understand this slide is if you are a student who is black with a disability, in this set you're 4.32 times more likely to be suspended for 10 days plus than your non-disabled peers. And you see it is numbers that has actually decreased, so we're making some movement there. But ultimately, in comparison to the other schools, or other districts, there's only one, which is Brevard, that is above us, and you ultimately want to be as low as possible. This is a financial snapshot. This looks at our money that we are allocated versus the amount of money that we spend. You look at the end fund balance, 18% down to 12%. Right now we are problem solving halfway through the fiscal year in order to identify ways to reduce our budget, save money, to not reduce our reserves again. That's very hard, that's very complex work to do because we're literally 7 months into the fiscal year. The budget's been established, but if we don't make drastic changes now, we will have to dip into our reserves ultimately to close the year. Spending more than we receive is not an effective practice. The theory of action, as I've kind of alluded to in this conversation, if we clearly define the expectations and behaviors that exemplify school excellence for all 21st century learners and implement actions in alignment with these expectations, all behaviors, then higher levels of student learning will be achieved. Defining excellence, implementing actions in alignment with these expectations, and the establishment of behaviors, organizational beliefs, in order to ensure that we're continually improving. As I mentioned during the interview process, I made some very big promises. I presented what is called my 90-day plan. This was an opportunity for me to discuss with the board the process that I would implement over the course of 90 days really to evaluate the current strategic plan, gain a solid and deep understanding as to where we are as an organization, not making just assumptions and not making changes based on those assumptions, but really coming to a deep understanding regarding the reality of this district, building a consensus regarding the opportunity to change or modify, seek input and feedback from all members of the organization and those that the organization supports, really to develop a new, revised, or modified strategic plan that pulls us together as a community, that clearly defines the expectation that has been set by this board, the expectation that the community has of its public schools, as well as the path and the process that the public school will take in order to obtain or live up to the expectations that we collectively have as a community. So those were some of the goals that I gave and promised to our school board. Areas of focus as we move through this process. As an organization, we need to clearly understand what are our guiding principles. What are the behaviors and conditions that drive our decisions, our beliefs, and our actions? Without guiding principles, a normed way of thinking in which is embraced by all members of the organization in terms of what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, defined roles and responsibilities, we can't succeed. We need to have guiding principles that drive our work. We need to be able to disaggregate and analyze data to monitor progress towards goal attainment. We need to accelerate our understanding of the impact of our actions. As educators, we should not be wondering how effective or how impactful our instruction is. We need to constantly, through a multitude of assessments and checks for understanding, gain insight on the impact of that instruction to begin to modify, shift, reteach, differentiate the lessons that we're providing for our students. And having that differentiation take place within the confines of a class. Not teaching something and waiting 2 months down the road for the topic assessment or the unit assessment or the mid-year exam to say, oh, no, wait, I have to go back and reteach this concept that I covered 2 weeks or 2 months ago. We lost 2 months. Those prerequisite skills that weren't covered caused additional gaps for the students because we weren't frequently monitoring the impact of our instruction. Not saying that we assess for the sake of assessing. I said we build in understanding of the impact of instruction, and we actually maximize the amount of time that we are teaching and significantly reduce the amount of time that we're conducting formal assessments. Develop plans that explicitly define needed actions. This is the conversation that I continue to have, that as a system and as a district, there needs to be alignment between our strategic plan as well as school site improvement plans. The state of Florida uses an old, outdated, ineffective model, and they call it Florida's continuous improvement model. It is a model that evaluates the impact of action over the course of a 10-month school year once. It asks school sites to evaluate the impact of 4 months, 4.5 months of instruction and make shifts and changes based on one assessment that takes place in the middle of the year. That's 4.5 months of missed opportunities for adults to come together, connect to one another, learn from one another regarding the craft of teaching to continuously improve the quality of instruction for our students. So we need to, as principals and as leaders and as teachers, really design a system that's ours, belongs to us, created by us, and not use a generic template that was designed to meet the needs of 67 different districts. Anything that was designed to meet 67 different unique needs is going to be generic and ineffective. But what does continuous improvement look like in Indian River? How frequently are we connecting to one another to evaluate the impact of instruction? What kind of data sets are we looking at? How do we design a theory of action to ensure we're addressing the unique needs of our students in our schools? And the answer isn't Florida's continuous improvement model. Identify key priorities that ensure we are all fully enhancing and supporting instruction and accelerating feedback loops. And I spoke a little bit about that as well. We need to be designed in a way that we're not a school system, but a system of schools. And as a district, we are connecting the great practices that are happening in our classrooms from school to school across the entire district. We need to build capacity by sharing. We need to build capacity by connecting educators. We need to build effective instructional leaders and principals and assistant principals by really getting into classrooms and helping them understand not how to just evaluate instruction, but to determine the impact of the support that's being provided to teachers. If you want to improve teaching and learning, the evaluation begins with the systems of support that are being provided to that teacher to help them, to support them in the improvement of that instruction. That is one of the biggest successes Miami-Dade has ever had. During instructional rounds, during impact reviews or instructional reviews, we took our eyes off just the instructional reality inside that classroom and really began to have conversations about the quality of principals, the quality of professional development, the timeliness of that professional development, the systems to build sustainable practices continuously throughout the school year, and really hold ourselves accountable to ensuring that everything that wraps itself around that classroom is supporting the teacher and supporting the students in that classroom to accelerate their understanding. You'll hear me talk a lot about accelerating feedback loops. Accelerating feedback loops is the intelligence of the adults, the intelligence of the organization. And the way an organization learns is communicating, reflecting, evaluating data, and stepping back from that reflection and that understanding of impact through the data to determine where we shift, modify, and grow ourselves as adults to be more effective in serving children. That needs to be happening on a daily basis. That needs to be driven by all educators in the room. I was like, okay, come on. So I covered some of this information, but to kind of reemphasize and to go over, again, a common language, consistency amongst all schools, points of reference for all work, promote consistency and sustainability in course of action. School improvement is grounded in the organization's beliefs. It's grounded in its consistency to build sustainable practices. As an organization or as a school, we cannot be reactive. We need to ensure each and every single school has defined its priorities. And as an organization, we're supporting them in the implementation of the actions that address their defined priorities. I have been a principal of 3 different schools, all of which were inner city schools, all of which were either an alternative school or an F upon my arrival. There were a number of priorities in my school. And you can't address all priorities at the same time. You need to problem solve with those who live, eat, and breathe and invest in that school, the teachers, the administrators, to define what's the true barrier. What's the one thing, if we address this one key area, it will have the most influence on eliminating as many other obstacles that it can possibly can. Let's put our attention on where we know our biggest obstacle is. Let's problem solve to a deep level to come to a solid understanding as to that area that we need to address. And as a principal and as a group of educators, you come to that consensus. You define an action plan that you're going to follow. And the district needs to support that work. They need to embed themselves in that work. And what principals and teachers don't need is for the district to come in and begin to walk around the building and point out everything else that isn't working. When I was a principal, I would say, I know, that is a problem, but it's not the biggest problem. And when you take me off what my priorities are, my organization, my teachers' priorities, I'm running around getting nothing done. You want to see schools accelerate? Allow those schools to come together, surrounded and pulled together through guiding principles, rules of engagement. Allow them to define these are the biggest obstacles in our school, in our culture, with the adults who make up who we are. And this is the action that we're going to take in order to accelerate the outcomes for kids. This is the learning we need to experience as adults. And then put an expectation on the district to support you in implementing those particular actions. And you will see growth happen tremendously. Data needs to become our superpower. When I say our superpower, it is the understanding on a daily basis as we evaluate and reflect on the consistent implementation of the instructional reality in classrooms and the impact, the growth that it's having on students. Data is not a negative consequence. Data is not just an assessment. It's using it to fully understand the reality. Teachers should be using data to manage up concerns. Leadership teams to be using data to find consistency regarding professional development and the impact of that professional development. When you're using data, you're eliminating, in some cases, or in most cases, personality. We will establish a protocol on how we problem solve in this district. We will define who in the organization is making which decisions. Who has the power, who has the authority to make which decisions. And ensure that those decisions are being made. Teachers have the authority to make decisions. Assistant principals, principals, district staff, assistant superintendents. We can't be an organization that's paralyzed because we're not making decisions. or we're waiting for the superintendent to make a decision. We need to define who's responsible for making which decision and what data points are you looking at to define the problem. Do you have a problem? Define it based on numbers. And then work through the process in order to ensure decisions are being made as closely to kids as possible. I love this slide. When I first saw it, we had to include it. It fits best in expanding on the conversation around short-term feedback loops. Individuals working from opposite ends of whatever this is, an ocean, a river, but because they're not in constant communication and they're not reflecting and communicating with one another, when they come to the point in which they're to connect, the information, the outcome is a little off. And if you apply that to an academic outcome, it means you missed the mark. So we need to ensure we're designed in a way and we're integrating our conversations and our resources and our expectations to effectively hit the outcome for all children. In looking at this re-envisioning process, as I said, it's just not a process for me. It is a collective conversation. Tonight, I tried to put forth the reality of Indian River County Schools. And as I move through this process, I will continue to share the outcomes. Where I am right now is in the listen and learn phase. Phase 1 was the onboarding process. It was during December, before I even officially started, which for me was to become familiar with the organization as a whole, the current design, the structures of the system, key players, really have everyone come in and completely overwhelm me. And that is exactly what happened in the first 13 days during December. Now we're moving through a process where I am connecting, I am presenting, I am listening, and gathering feedback from multiple sources. Really wanting to clearly define what our reality is through conversation, through data, through dialogue, through protocol-driven process, really to fully have a comprehensive understanding at all points of the organization, both inside the district and out, regarding our current reality. And once we have that full understanding, I'll have the opportunity to go back to the board and say, based on everything that I have learned and everything that I have listened to, this is our current reality at our district. These are our areas of success that we want to continue to build upon. These are key areas that we need to address in the development of our strategic plan. These are key areas that we need to incorporate or develop within our strategic plan. Then we will move into phase 3, which will be March through May, which will really lead us through yet another process in which we use to build upon our understanding of our current reality, to design and implement a plan, a new modified strategic plan that's built upon consensus. And then at the end of May, we as a community will have clearly defined where we currently are and where we want to go over the course of 5 years. And in the design of that plan will not be stale or will not be stagnant. It will not be something that says what we're going to be doing in 4 years from now. It will say where we want to be and what we want to look like in 5 years. But this is a fluid plan that we evaluate each year. We determine the progress that we made over the course of each year. and then stretch out or expand where we want to go, always adding out to that additional 5th year. Strategic plans that become stagnant and stale lead to no implementation. This strategic plan will drive and prioritize where we put our money. Items that I send to the school board for approval will have a direct link to our strategic plan. And if there is no connection to our strategic plan, I may not or should not be asking the board to approve funding for something that doesn't support or move us towards the implementation of our strategic plan. It will norm us as a community. It will clearly define us in terms of where we are and where we want to go. Over the course of the last 3 weeks of this calendar year, plus the 13 days that I was here in December, I've identified a few opportunities for improvement. Are they the only opportunities for improvement? Absolutely not. Are there more that you know about that aren't on this list? I assure you there are. Do I want to know them? Absolutely. Create authentic opportunities for teachers to support and grow together. That is key. Maximize opportunities to provide school choice. Create schools that students look forward to attending. Initiate a principal, assistant principal pipeline to cultivate future leaders. Spending time to ensure that our principals and our assistant principal are in fact world-class leaders. We are an organization of education. Because we are a teacher and an administrator, the day that we stop educating or investing in ourselves to educate others is the day that we ultimately are failing students each and every single day. So as an organization, we need to be designed to continually educate and invest in ourselves, an ongoing process. The position of principal or assistant principal and teacher, the expectation is you continue to educate, to refine, and improve your practice to be best by kids. Re-envision the school improvement process. I spoke about that. We will engage in a conversation regarding school start times. There is just too much research out there and too many districts taking advantage of that research for us to lay silent or not take action or consideration regarding are we putting our children in the safest, most productive situations regarding when we start and stop school times. Establish programs to recruit, retain instructional coaches. Some of the biggest successes in Miami, as I have said a number of times now, it comes through the investment in teachers. A solid, dedicated position to continually invest in teachers are instructional coaches. Not leaving children with a substitute in going to a professional development off campus or on a 1-hour training at the end of the day in which you're already exhausted, but continuously embedding development and support within the confines of the school day. Using expert teachers, master teachers, to solely spend their time investing in building the craft of other educators. Not to evaluate them, not to pass judgment, but to support and invest, to grow them, to ensure we have nothing but master teachers. Eliminate redundancies across the district to maximize resources at school. That is a big ask and a complex ask. But the overwhelming percent of our budget and our resources and our human capital needs to be at schools. And currently, positions outside and away from children need to be examined. And every opportunity we have to eliminate a redundancy or a position that no longer is relevant, then we need to make the difficult decision to reallocate those resources and get them closer to children. A lot of times, transformation begins not with things you're going to start doing, but with things you're going to stop doing. That's a deep look, total, all district offices, ensuring we have people in key positions to lead the work, ensuring we have the resources available to schools, ensuring that when we stand in front of children, whether it is myself, one of the board members, that we can say, we as an organization put you first. And we've designed ourselves in a way which ensures we're maximizing the investment, the funding that we have to educate you, to empower you. I want to establish a couple different committees to continuously inform me, one of which is around the area of exceptional student education. I know we have an advisory board for exceptional student education. We're going to expand that opportunity. We're going to push that opportunity for hours in which parents are available to come, really so I can hear firsthand regarding where we are within exceptional student education. We are providing a service, and how do our customers feel regarding that service, and where are there opportunities to shift or modify those services to be more effective. As the superintendent, I can't sit in this office or sit in this district and pretend to know what the reality is. I need to constantly be connected to those who are receiving these services and understand I am accountable for shifting and modifying behaviors that are not best by kids. I always said to myself when I was a principal and when I trained principals that sitting in the seat of the principal is a very, very lonely seat, because you are the keeper of that expectation. And you are responsible for ensuring every member of that organization, from the assistant principal to the part-time JV basketball coach, upholds that expectation. You set expectation, you speak through expectation, but they're going to believe you based on your actions. And the highest expectation in any school is not how the principal speaks through that expectation. The highest expectation is the lowest condoned behavior allowed by that principal. So as well as I can speak through expectation, if I allow a teacher to come in 45 minutes late every single day and choose not to deal with it, that's the highest expectation in my organization. And it builds a sense of no confidence. Other teachers in the organization will say, well, why do I come 25 minutes early to prepare my lesson, to greet my students, to give them high fives as they walk in, when this other person comes in, I have to go and get someone to help cover their class, and nothing is done about it. So being a principal, enforcing expectation is hard and lonely work, but it is very, very rewarding work when done correctly. And it is very, very rewarding work when that expectation is shared amongst everyone in the organization. Also want to create a superintendent's advisory council in the development of our district's budget. We will begin a very, very complex budget process in the next 2 months. It'll be an ongoing process that will lead us to what will be our budget that will go before the school board to be approved. And that's an opportunity for people to be involved and provide input and look at where we're putting our resources, understanding the constraints and the frustrations that we as a district and as a board and as a community face regarding the lack of funding that we receive. But it's an open and transparent conversation. It is a give and take. It is a conversation we collectively have, so there are no surprises, and there's opportunities for individuals to connect and be a part of that. I think I've spoken through my desire to design this district in a way to fully support and enhance instruction. That is the key function of this district. That's the work we need to enhance. Opportunities for you to engage in this work. There are opportunities to fill out information up here. We do have a page on our website to connect and get information. It will be updated as we move throughout this process. We will have focus groups, both internally and external. We'll have work groups, surveys, and feedback that will be posted on our webpage. We'll be seeking and establishing a number of community partnerships as we move through this process. Always go back if you don't have opportunities to connect and look at our website, connect in any of these work groups or processes that we have to be involved in this conversation. This is a picture of our website here. As we move through this, as I will do with all things, as it is a growth process, you always hear me talk about making my practice public. This information will be posted on our webpage as we move through this process, so we're being transparent and open regarding this and re-envisioning process. This is a quote. It's a very long quote, so I'm not going to read it, but I thought it was appropriate to insert. I am beyond excited to have the opportunity to serve as superintendent. This was something that happened for me for all of the right reasons. This is where I was supposed to be. I am happy to be here. I am reassured and validated that I am in the right place each and every single day. The board who is here today, all sitting in this front row, our board chair, Ms. Zork, is here. Stand and say hello. Our vice chair, Dr. Schiff, is here as well. Board member Jacqueline Rosario is here. Board member Tiffany Justice. That's my wife, Jen Moore, right there. All right. Ms. Berenborg would have been here tonight, but had a previous commitment. So we acknowledge her hard work and commitment to this district and to each of you. So with that, if there's any questions you may have, I would be glad to answer them. We do have a mic that would go around somewhere. I am open and honest to answer any questions you may have. If I don't have the answer now, I will get you the answer. If you don't have time or feel comfortable asking that question tonight, there's information that you could fill out and leave that question. Either myself or staff will get back to you with an answer relatively quickly. So any questions, concerns, or issues, we will take them. There we go. Let me put this down.
Thank you. My name is Damian Gilliams, City Councilman for the City of Sebastian. First of all, I want to welcome you to our community. My first question is, when are you coming to the city of Sebastian to speak to us?
Where's Peggy? Isn't it already on my calendar? Look at. She was like, oh no, no, she will come. I have told staff, I have told principals, we are fully committed to doing this work. When I say we, that is my wife and I. This is a decision that we made. It is not a 9-to-5 job. I had the opportunity to be mentored by someone who told me this is an 18-hour-a-day job, and if you want to do it effectively and you're not willing to do that, don't apply. So if I have an open opportunity to be there, I will be there.
We are a big part of this community in the North County, and we welcome you to our community, and we can't wait to hear you come speak on the North End. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. I will be there. Kristen, right behind you.
So my name's Diane Lott, and I'm a teacher at Pelican Island. And there are quite a few people in the county who have a green vision environmentally. And I just wanted to see if you could give any feedback about if you have any vision going environmentally green with this county.
I have to be honest with you. Some of the work that's being done in terms of growing green here in comparison to where I come is light years ahead. I know it is you and a passion that you have, but based on just the little bit of knowledge and information that I have over the last month or so, there is some strong work being done around growing green initiatives in this district. And if you're asking, is that something I support? The answer is absolutely yes.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Laura Sánchez. Yo soy madre de 3 niños con necesidades especiales que tienen una IP dentro de este distrito escolar.
Her name is Laura Huerta Sanchez. She is a parent that have 3 students in the district, and they are special needs, and they have IEPs.
Yo estoy aquí porque yo quiero pedirle a usted si por favor pueden brindar conferencias acerca de drogas, de lo que es el acoso escolar y las carreras que se imparten dentro de la escuela de Sebastian River High School.
She wants to see there is a way that more training or education could be made when it comes down to bullying to our students, especially in a given school, which she mentioned, Sebastian River High School.
Algo muy importante que yo tengo que decirles es que yo he tenido muchos problemas por mucho tiempo con el Departamento de Educación Especial.
She wants to share that she has had a lot of issues with the Department of ESE.
No se elaboran bien los IEPs, que es un plan individual, de acuerdo a la ley de IDEA.
The IEP implementation is not well done based on the IDEA.
Aproximadamente un año no hemos terminado un IEP de mi hijo que está en la escuela de Sebastian River High School.
Her IEP from her son that started a year ago hasn't been finished yet.
Yo he conocido lo que es el proceso de mediación con mi otro hijo y con mi hijo, el que está en la escuela de Sebastian River, un proceso de IEP facilitado y no ha funcionado.
She knows what the process of an IEP facilitation it is, and the process that she's currently involved in is not working.
Yo le pido por favor que si en esta última ocasión que yo tengo una carta de parte del neurólogo de mi hijo, donde está haciendo peticiones de evaluaciones acerca de terapia ocupacional, acerca de ayuda psicológica, entonces por favor hagamos un debido proceso, porque creo que ya es demasiado tiempo que he esperado.
She has plenty of evidence artifacts from her doctor about what her kids needs, and she's asking you if please something is done because too much time has been spent nothing has been done yet.
So in response to a number of your concerns, ESC has been a issue that has been raised a number of times. I would ask tonight before you leave, Ms. Parandozzi is here, who at least recently just took the lead in terms of leading that work, to have a conversation with her, so we waste no more time getting to a better understanding of the systems of support that we could provide to eliminate the list of concerns that you just wrote. And my commitment to you is your concerns have been shared a number of times through a number of different formats while I've been here. There are opportunities for us to improve. We acknowledge that, and part of this work is to gain a deeper understanding as to where we're not working in order to ensure no parent comes in here in future meetings with that many concerns regarding the systems of support for our district's most fragile students. So we will address it.
I will translate that to her in a few minutes.
I was just allowing the translation for everyone else. I was good.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Portia Dean, and I'm here on behalf of Sequel Care Florida. And we have a collaborative partnership with the Indian River County School District. We offer mental health services in the community. And my question, sir, is does the school district have a strategic plan on how to help our students that are really struggling with mental health?
We have an Office of Mental Health. We have systems in place. So the answer to your question is yes. Is it embedded into our strategic plan? The answer is no. And that's part of the reason I have been charged by the board to evaluate the current strategic plan. And if it's important, it needs to be prioritized and defined within the plan. And when you have a new funding source to provide services for mental health, it needs to be done in a proactive approach. And it needs to be done in order to be on the front side of mental wellness. And, you know, as the guy that was in charge of mental wellness for the fourth largest district in the nation, we were very aggressive in ensuring that we had strategic plans in place in all schools, embedded into their school improvement plans to ensure that we were minimizing and addressing mental wellness so we never got to mental illness. And I can tell you that the work that I've seen in that area, I think is being done very, very well in this district. But I know the leadership over that office said we can even do better. And partnerships are key in enhancing and moving that work forward. Yeah. All right, so, okay. It's Dee Dee's fault you're still here.
No. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dee Dee Williams. I am actually a part of the newly reorganized Office of Mental Health Services. And my question is, as a new employee to the district, I was watching on TV some information regarding 211 and the Department of Transportation, where there's recently been reports of an increase in death by suicide. And it just brought to light that Florida is one of the lowest numbered in the 50 states for funding for mental health services. And so I'm interested in being newly employed with the district as a mental health service provider, what your ideas or plans moving forward would be to request more funding for mental health services within our school district.
It is part of our legislative priorities. It is us advocating both here and locally regarding the lack of funding that we receive, which is answer or the first part of your answer. Us as a community acknowledging and sending out a sense of awareness regarding the lack of funding that we have. The current reality now is we need to be good stewards of the resources that we have, and we really need to step back and evaluate what we're funding. And part of the design of the strategic plan is to ensure to this board and to this community that our funding is aligned to what we have defined as being our priorities. Things that concern me, still 14 days in, not fully understanding everything. I was, as you have, if you were to listen to me tell my story, some are like, please don't tell your story again. I feel that way too. Okay, all right, no, don't laugh that loud. I was a school counselor. And to come into a district where elementary schools do not have school counselors, a big lump in my throat. And we need to be investing in them. When I talk about mental wellness, it is intentional. You have to be intentional about growing comfort and confidence in children, eliminating social isolation. Those are things that happen in school that manifest themselves in the lives of children. And it is complex, hard work. So gaining a better understanding regarding decisions that have been made historically, looking forward to gaining a better understanding and expanding the opportunities to be effective or strategic regarding how those allocations are used to maximize mental health services is an exploration I'm excited to dig into.
Good evening, Dr. Moore.
How are you?
Michelle Scott, and we met the other night. My concern is how are we going to pull in resources for our African American students that are in honors classes? And I'm not talking about this because of hearsay. I'm talking about this because my granddaughter is in honors classes, and I have members of my family that have been in honors classes, and they are not called on. They are not talked to. They are not being guided in the correct direction so they can feel confident in these honors classes to stay in them, and the teachers are basically ignoring them.
So we need to do better. And you're speaking of honors, but what concerns me even more than the reality and the truth in which you just spoke is why are we not in AP? Why are we not in IB? And you look at the variance of those numbers and the gap between white students and AP and dual enrollment courses, there is a true concern that needs to be addressed there. An honors class is good. It is. But we need to ensure all students are exposed to the most rigorous environments in which they could be exposed to. As we begin to disaggregate data and we look at differentiating instruction, part of our strategic plan is to ensure that we're designed in a way where we're accelerating and defining a path for all students. And there's no two ways about it. Proficiency drives and predicts outcomes. Enrollment in courses, in an Algebra 1 course in 8th grade, if you don't have that Algebra 1 course in 8th grade and it's a prerequisite to go into a magnet program, all of a sudden, because you weren't afforded that opportunity in 8th grade, the door has been closed on you. So those are the inequities that we need to talk about. Those are the truths that we need to talk about. And that was an example that I gave for Miami-Dade. I don't know that that's a truth here. So I don't know it. Okay. All right. So I just want to be open and transparent. But the desire and the design needs to change. The expectation for instruction needs to change. The goal should not be level 3. The goal should be moving students to fulfill their potential. And we begin to talk about the impact that we're having with students at all levels, at all schools, that all teachers are having, it changes the paradigm. And when I say that we're using data to drive conversations and define problems, if we're not moving students we have a problem. And if we're not exposing students to every opportunity, regardless of what neighborhood they live in or which side of town that they live in, we have a problem. And the truth is in the numbers. So it's funny as you say that, and I'm reviewing the work that we're doing around the African American Achievement Plan, ready to begin to expose the community to it, to seek input on that plan, and really kind of work collaboratively around leading initiatives as a district and as a community to ensure those kinds of comments are a thing of the past. So there is work to be done, and we are going to hold ourselves accountable. I shared with the board in terms of the equity work that we're doing in our African American Achievement Plan. We are designing a brand new collaborative process where I will hold accountable every member of this organization. If their name is identified in an action step and they don't fully implement that action step, their evaluation is tied to the implementation of those steps. I will provide a data-driven progress report to our board every single month on the implementation of our African American Achievement Plan. We are designing, there's already a web page being posted, but we're going to have a report card, which, when I say a report card, looking at the key areas that we will post data that displays the progress or lack of progress that we've made within each of the key areas. The time is now to have open and honest, transparent conversations regarding the actions and implementation that we're taking to ensure that equity in this district matters and all children are being provided with every opportunity possible so we can ensure we're all best by kids.
Hi, I'm Kate Fiore. I'm a teacher at Vero Beach Elementary. What? And I'm speaking because your conversation about equity it just speaks to my heart. And I'm curious about how you are going to move our community. I went to school here. I was educated in Dodgertown and Sebastian River Middle and Sebastian River High School. And so I was recently our Teacher of the Year and a state finalist. And it was just, so many people had a lot of positive things and couldn't believe that I was educated at Dodgertown. And when my dad was the assistant principal there, they couldn't believe he would send his child there. So there's definitely a perception that our Title I schools are a bit demonized within the community and that there's something inherently wrong with them, to the point where my son also goes to my school and people ask me, like, really? He's so smart. Are you sure he wants to go there? Like, are you sure about that? So I'm curious how we're going to fix that perception so that everyone recognizes, like, BBE is where it's at, and it's not just us. It's all of our, our Title I schools. How are we going to convince our community to believe in our Title I schools?
So the teacher of the year and the principal of the year both came from the same school.
No, Nikki was this year. I was like a couple years ago.
Sorry. Oh, okay. All right.
But Cindy was.
Yeah, I know Cindy was. Yes. I think the answer to your question is I don't know how to answer it other than saying my work, my heart, my passion is for all kids. I sent my daughter to a Title I school, a school where she was one of 9, 10 white children. And every day of the week, twice on Sunday, I would do it again. And the richness of where she grew up because of the diversity and the friends that she has made in her whole paradigm and how she looks at life is richer than some of the instruction that she was provided. That is the kind of world that we want to live in. A few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I had to go back to Miami for a presentation, went early and went to Magnet Schools of America presentation and listened to my former superintendent give a presentation. And he told that crowd, it was Florida's Technology Conference for Educators, FETC, which is Florida's biggest technology conference. And he told them that Miami is the town that all other towns will be in 15 years. And that resonated with me. And the reality is, we continue to talk through the truth. We continue to talk through the outcomes. We continue to show the world the outcomes that we are having in those particular schools. We provide opportunities for everyone to have access to those schools. It is an open and honest conversation regarding some things, or sometimes people are uncomfortable having. But when you have seen the richness in the quality of living in a diverse community, you don't want to take that away. You don't want to minimize that. You don't want to push that into a corner. You want to celebrate that. And that is something we as a community should embrace. Because when you look at our numbers, we are growing. We're becoming more diverse, and that is something for us to celebrate, because it's going to make us all richer as a result.
Hello, my name's Alma Camacho. I come from the Felsmere Elementary School. And my question was, I noticed like our classes with our kids, like there's more kids for like one teacher, like 20 kids in a class. And I was wondering, like, is that because there's not enough teachers, or is it because they're trying to make the classes bigger? Because I noticed, like, my daughter will come home and be like, there's a lot of kids in her class. And so I just wanted to ask if that's part of your plan, like to get more teachers in our schools.
So we will look at school-based allocations, and maybe the principal can help us give a very, very specific answer, because she's like right there. But there are ratios that are defined by the state, and looking at averages by the school site as a whole. So not having specific information regarding your particular school for an elementary school should not exceed 18 at the average of the school. There are districts and nations that are being very creative on how they're grouping students in middle school and high school, is where I'm referring to, actually going beyond those ratios, because it is empowering kids to think for themselves. It is giving them structure. It is giving them a theory of action to obtain goals by communicating and interacting with one another, and using teachers to facilitate learning versus standing in front of a group of students and just talking while they're in rows. So there is a lot of research that says, although there are ratios that are enforced by the state, the most predictive, successful outcome is a teacher, regardless of the number of students. So with that, 6 minutes early. Thank you so much for your time. Once again, there is information to fill out here if you have questions you wanted to continue to ask, or you want to connect to the multiple opportunities to continue this conversation. Thank you guys for coming. Look forward to being in service.